Hello, guys. Welcome back to this live streaming dedicated to my thoughts and analysis of episode 23 of season 4, part 2 of Shingeki no Kyojin. Yes, sorry, on Sunday I was telling you, let's meet on Wednesday, but no, I was wrong. I was making a mistake because actually, in the previous live streaming, I was telling you, see you on Thursday just for this week. In fact, from next week, I will be back on Wednesday, but today it was an exception. Anyway, I'm ready to analyze this incredible episode because I wanted to remark this, even if this seems an episode that is not important. No, it's not. I mean, it's really important because of many reasons. And in fact, throughout this live streaming, I will tell you everything. I mean, I will tell you, in my opinion, why this episode was definitely important as much as all the others. Let me start immediately because there are so many things to say today and I don't want to make it so long. I will try my best. But anyway, the episode starts with these two frames of the rumbling. I mean, the effects of the rumbling. And I want to say that Mappa really made it, even in this case, because the way in which Mappa is representing this rumbling is simply amazing. I really like the fact that it seems like an earthquake and a massive earthquake. And in fact, the rumbling, it means when the earth is trembling. So the way in which the earth is trembling and its result, its effects on the people was intense. I also liked the fact that they write trust because even in the previous episode, you remember that there are lots of connections with the previous seasons, and definitely this time we are in trust. And you all know that in season one, there was the battle of trust. So all these connections, once again, I wanted to say this. Isayama was simply great because he wanted to make everything like a circle, everything as if there is this cycle of a repeating of a repetition of events, and I really like these two. Then after these two frames, in which yes, I forgot to tell you these. Both in these frames and even when the writing of a trust is appearing, you see that there is lots of silence. There is no music, and I really like this choice. The fact that music is not needed, otherwise you can't feel the rumbling for real. But another thing that I really liked was when immediately after you see the effects that this rumbling is having even in Paradise. As I was telling you in the previous episode, I mean, in the analysis of the previous episode, this thing is not affecting just the people of the rest of the world, of course, but it's affecting also the people living in Paradise, because when the walls are falling, of course, the people who are living next to the walls, they are going to encounter lots of damages, lots of injuries, and stuff like that. So I like the fact that here we see that this Eren's attack is not just affecting the rest of the world, but even the people living inside are affected. And this makes you understand that this Eren idea to save Paradise somehow, it's not entirely possible. Of course, there are some counter effects, and I'm pretty sure that Eren didn't count these. I mean, he wanted to do everything that he did to save his people, but at the same time, he didn't count on the counter effects that were supposed to happen really soon after the walls were falling. So this is interesting because it makes you understand that Eren, by getting in touch with this power that was given by Ymir, is also becoming pretty blind about all the conditions, about all the counter effects that are happening on this side. I mean, the side of the people he wants to rescue. And here we go back to season 3, part 2, because if you remember, okay, later I'm going to explain you better, definitely, but it reminds me season 3, part 2, also because, as much as all the previous seasons, because even in those previous seasons, we were told many times that we have to sacrifice something in order to reach our goals. And in fact, even in this case, these poor common people in paradise who are seeing their lives destroyed, let's say that once again, I wanted to use this term, it's not good, but it's necessary. So it happened so many times even before, but especially in this episode, you understand this concept, and it's quite clear in many different scenes, and we are about to analyze all of them. But this will to reach this goal that is more important than human lives, and these sacrifices that have to be done in order to reach this goal. Of course, does this mean that the rest of the world is necessary to be destroyed because there is this huge sacrifice to make in order to find a peace from the perspective of the paradise people? But in this scene, we were not talking about the rest of the world. We were talking about these people living in paradise. And does this mean that even the paradise people for the another time they have to sacrifice their lives in order to reach the goal? Is this fair? Is this not fair? Of course, it's not fair. And of course, Eren, by doing what he did, was, yeah, I don't want to say blind, but he was not conscious of these side effects that he could have found later. And this once again makes you understand, as much as I said this in Code Geass, that every time you are getting in touch with a power like that, you lose your humanity, but at the same time, you forget the target, you forget what you have to focus on. And this is an example. But if you noticed, the people who are rescued, the people of trust who are rescued and they are taken into this shelter, let's say, that is the place where all of the people who survived go in order to regain their energy. It's the same place that we found even in season 1 when Eren and Mikasa and Armin, of course, were rescued. And at that time, uh, it was immediately after Eren becoming a Shingeki no Kyojin. I mean, Eren becoming a Titan. So I really like these connections because they are pretty powerful. And once again, we are in the same place. I told you this already in the previous commentary, but the hilarious thing is that things didn't change, actually. It seems that they changed, but they are not. We are in the same place. The same place is destroyed once again, and this is a way to repeat events. And it's not just a coincidence. It's because the author, in my opinion, wants to underline the fact that no matter the years, people are repeating the same mistakes. And it's really hard to find a real solution because we are always the same human beings. And once again, I tell you, by being a human being, there is the guarantee that some mistakes are happening and some mistakes are going to be repeated. Um, Going back to what these people who survived keep saying, they are always describing this speech of Eren as a dream that they had, especially the context in which they were. That means the dimension of the paths. And yeah, for them it was like a dream. Once again, even in this story, even if it's just for a little bit, the power of the dream that can turn this dream, of course, into a nightmare instead. And in fact, that all these people who are talking about this dream, they are terrorized. I mean, they are not saying, "Oh, what a nice dream." No, they were simply terrified. And this makes you understand that it's not a dream in the case, it's a nightmare. But I really like how all these people, all these aliens, Yumiro no Tami, it's better if I call them like this, so we make a difference for what's happening later with the flock. But all these Yumiro no Tami, they are having the same way to describe these. That is a dream. If you notice, not just the people who are surviving in paradise, but even the people who are living outside on the other side of the ocean, and they are all Yumiro no Tami, they are describing this as a yume, that means a dream. And this is hilarious because even if they live distantly, I mean, even if they are living so far away from one another, but they are using the same way to describe these Eren's speech and that frame, that moment in which they were all going to the dimension of the paths. Mm, later, I mean, if you see that I'm looking down, it's because I'm following the notes, just so I don't forget everything that I have to say. But then there is this incredible scene of this woman, old woman, who is rescued by Hitch. And it's pretty sad because she, of course, lost her house because of Eren. And she is saying that it's all Eren's fault. This is something crazy because if you remember in previous seasons, I mean, season one, especially in season two, we all remember that Eren was supposed to be the savior of humanity. But in this season, of course, he is totally the opposite. He is not a savior of humanity, but he is a destroyer of humanity. And this thing is seen not just on the other side of the ocean, but also in paradise, because this poor woman who lost everything is not saying, "Oh, thank you, Eren, you destroyed my house because now there is this project in which you have to destroy the rest of the world in order to save us." No, that woman is pretty objective, and she definitely goes against Eren because she lost her life. She lost everything that she has built throughout the years. She lost her peace. And if we see everything from her perspective, of course, this is something incredible. This is something great. But if we check the Eren's perspective, uh, this is uh, this is something that it's crazy because from Eren's perspective, everything is good to be done like this. Everything is made for a certain purpose. And I already analyzed this so many times Eren's perspective, but I still wanted to say this. Eren maybe is still convinced that what he's doing is the right thing because of what he saw from the future. But maybe, as much as what happened to Grisha, he has not seen everything entirely. He has not seen the main vision. He just saw those few frames that were convenient because maybe I was telling you this theory. Maybe there is even somebody else after Eren who made the same thing on Eren as much as Eren did the same thing on Grisha. That would be so great because this means that maybe the story is not ending like this. There will be maybe an open ending in which every one of us can just guess, can just think what can happen later. And this will be so great from my perspective because I love open endings. So let's see. But anyway, Eren, by doing what he's doing, is not even realizing, yeah, because he's blind, and the way in which he's blind is because of this anger he has. But he's not realizing that he is affecting even those people he wants to save. So it's pretty sad. And then there is another scene immediately after in which you see one against the other one. I mean, the people living in Trust, they are fighting one against the other one because they are having different opinions regarding what's going on. And this is actually what I was telling you before. In the previous analysis, I was telling you this. Even if Eren is going to save Paradise, and even if this is going to happen, we are not going to avoid other mistakes coming later in the future. There will be always, even in Paradise, people who are going against one against the other one, having different opinions, creating other sort of wars, creating other sort of conflicts. So even if Eren is going to save them, that doesn't mean that peace is going to happen, maybe, because as much as we saw even in season 3 part 1 with the coup d'etat, we were inside, we were not on the other side of the world, on the of the ocean. But anyway, the problems were still there. So it's not guaranteed that just because Eren wants to save them, everything will be so beautiful after. There will not be nothing regarding something bad happening. No, I think that, especially in this episode, you see these. There were people going one against the other one because until there will be individualism, as I told you many times, it will not be easy to create a one opinion that goes well for everyone until there is the possibility to be different. There will always be a problem even after. So that's why I think that Eren is choosing the easiest path. I mean, he's thinking, oh, I erase the rest of the world and the problems will be over. No, no, no. This is just a mere utopia. This is not going to happen. Of course, there will be the ending of slavery from the Yumi Runotami point of view, but this doesn't mean that other things can't happen. And maybe things that are getting even worse than these. Who knows? Isayama, I don't think Isayama will ever tell us what's going to happen later, but it's not necessary. I mean, I don't need the help of Isayama to let me understand that even later something bad can happen. No, because this is pretty normal. Um, but anyway, you see in this scene one going against to the other one because everyone wants to be right. I mean, everyone wants to find a way to demonstrate their right options, their right opinions. And it was pretty sad because one of the two people who was quarreling was saying, look, I lost my son because of everything that is happening right now. And the other person in front of him was saying, no, what Eren did was good. Even if you lost your child, that death is not in vain. It was happening because it was a way. Sorry, I'm moving the screen a little bit because otherwise it's trembling. Um, it was good that Irene did something like this, this person is saying, because it was a sacrifice in order to reach the main goal, in order to reach our freedom as a population, as Yumiru no Tami. And once again, he was remarking this as a noble sacrifice. That is, as I was telling you before, almost the same thing that happened in season 3, part 2, for example, when Erwin was asking all of these soldiers to sacrifice their lives for the goal in order to help Levi reaching the Beast Titan so he could kill him. Mm, Once again, all these deaths that can seem necessary in order to reach this goal. Is this good? Is this bad? Of course, it's bad, as much as it was bad what Erwin was telling these young soldiers to do. I mean, many people, I want to remark this, many people felt that what Erwin was doing was simply great. But I think for Japanese people, what Erwin was doing was simply wrong because it was reflecting a period of time, that means the Second World War, in which these young soldiers were sent to death, simply death. And many Japanese people are against this. I mean, they don't like Erwin for this principle. But in this case, the thing is repeated. That means who is right, who is wrong. Everyone is right or wrong at this point because everyone wants to search the truth, everyone wants to be right. And from each perspective, you can find yourself or not. So there is, in this story, there is not a unified point of view or a unique point of view in which everyone agrees with the other. Some people like one character, some people like the other character. So even in this case, even between these two people, it's really hard to understand what side should I take. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. But definitely, I think that this is the greatness of this story. The fact that the author doesn't want to give a unified opinion about what's right and what's wrong. But to put it simply, it's better to let the viewers or the readers understand which side they want to take, if they want to take a side, and to analyze everything from their perspective. I think that's why Isayama was great in this. Hmm. But this person who's saying, look, Eren was doing something great, uh, because it was anyway, it was a noble sacrifice and it has to be done like this, etc., etc. He was also saying that it's something good because thanks to this action we can restore this Eldian empire. These people are talking about this alien empire even if they don't know what does it mean. I want to remark this once again. The Eldian empire was the empire of King Fritz, and if you remember everything that King Fritz did to Ymir in this case, in order to reach his dominion, these people are talking about something they don't know, actually, because they were not there 2000 years before, but they pretended to know this, and they pretended to think that what was happening at that time, I mean, this Eldian empire, was something great. No, I mean, these people are making the same mistake Grisha was making when he was exalting this Eldian empire and he wanted to restore it. So, once again, people who base their ideas on books, on what they have read, on what they have seen because other people told them this, but they don't have the evidence because they were not there 2000 years before. So, this way to be presumptuous to think that alien empire was the best thing. I don't think so. If they were at that time, in that King Fritz time, when the real alien empire was created, all the Yumironotami were slaves. So when these people now they are saying, I wanted to restore the alien empire, no, because if you wanted to restore it, you also wanted to restore slavery. So this is something antithetical. This is something that doesn't go ahead with what was good to do. And this also goes against Eren's principle because they wanted to restore the Eldian Empire. I open a bracket. The Eldian Empire means that King Fritz was on top of this dominion and all the Yumiro no Tami were slaves. But Eren wants to do the contrary. He wants to release this slavery to let all these people who suffered the slavery for 2,000 years be free. So as you can see, what these people want is not matching with what Eren wants. But this thing can be put in the same place because they think, Eren is saving Eldians, so we are being saved and we can restore the Eldian Empire. Once again, we have to make a distinction because the episode in which there were the Ymir's memories, in that episode, you understand the difference of Eldian and the difference between the difference between Eldian and the difference between Yumiru no Tami. These are two different things. Eldians are the people, that the tribe of people ruled by King Fritz who were using Ymir to extend their dominion. Yumiru no Tami are the population that came out, that came after the unification of the two bodies of King Fritz and Ymir, and all the generations coming later. These are two different things. But these people who are quarreling, they are saying, let's restore the Eldian Empire, Shinzo Sasageo. This is crazy. This is not the same thing. And they don't even know what they are saying because they were not able to go back through Ymir's memories to see everything that Eren saw at that time. By touching Ymir, he could see her background story, but they couldn't. Um, so on one side, when they were quarreling, one side they were saying, Eren, of course, killed somebody, but it was something good. Because of what's happening later. That means our freedom. On the other side, you see, Eren anyway killed somebody, and this is something wrong because Eren showed us that he doesn't have any empathy, that he doesn't want to save us at the end of the day, otherwise he would have not killed my son, and many other things. So, as you can see, the result is that there are all victims, no matter the sides, and this is pretty sad. It's like as if this person who was saying, look, it's good that they can sacrifice themselves for the sake of others, for the sake of us, who are going to be free once again, blah, 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 blah. This seems exactly what happened to Ymir. That means even Ymir was sacrificing herself for the sake of King Fritz and her and his dominion. So these people who are promoting what Eren is doing, no matter what, etc., they seem like King Fritz followers instead of Yumiru no Tami, right? While these people who lost their kids, who lost their family, and they are more objective, they are more like Yumiru no Tami. People who always have to sacrifice themselves for the sake of others, and they have to be destroyed automatically. This is antithetical. These are two different views. Um, but once again, this reminds me a little bit of the same thing Erwin said in season 3 part 2 when he was sending these Flock and all the others to be killed by the beast titan, because at that time he was also saying that there is no victory that is gained without sacrifice. no deaths are in vain, and all these things. I mean, the fact that Erwin was promoting this thing, let's go to sacrifice ourselves for the sake of others, that means for the sake of a paradise, and there's nothing else to do. And by doing this, we are also paying a great memory to all the people who were sacrificing before. From Eden's point of view, I think that he's so tired that people are going on to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the rest of the world. But by doing what he did, he also sacrificed some people in paradise. So as you can see, it's a little bit incoherent at this point. But when these people later are saying Shinzo Sasageo, as I was telling you in season 4, part 1, I don't agree with this because the Shinzo Sasageo is ended already. That myth, that anthem that was used for the soldiers to go outside of the walls, that was something else. In the previous seasons, we used the Shinzo Sasageo because we thought that humanity was inside the walls and the rest of the world was ruled by titans. But later, the more we go on with the seasons, the more we understand that the titans are also people who are transformed by other people, and this makes you understand that humanity was not gone outside the walls. There was the rest of the world, and the paradise was something really, really small compared to it. So the Shinzo Sasageo is ended in the same moment in which we understand that there is a humanity outside the walls ruling on them. So when they are using now the Shinzo Sasageo is a pretty stupid. It's not coherent and it doesn't have anything to do with the Yumi Runotami because at this point, also the Yumi Runotami living on the other side of the ocean should have said Shinzo Sasageo because they are Yumi Runotami, right? So I find it simply incoherent. I don't agree with what they are doing right now. Then the episode goes on when we see Hitch and Annie meeting. I before meeting Annie, I really liked the fact that Hitch was doing the same things that she was doing in the previous seasons, and once again, we see these repetition of events. And we see that Hitch is saying this to Annie later. I mean, she's saying, "Look, it seems that time didn't change, time didn't pass because I'm still here doing the same things that I was doing 4 years before when you and Eren were fighting." That means trying to collect all of the dead people and try to rescue all the injured ones. So once again, this thing of the repetition, things that are not changing throughout the time. Um, but it's hilarious that Annie was attacking Hitch or she was meeting Hitch because it could have been somebody else actually. But the destiny wanted that these two comrades of the past were meeting again and they were facing each other on a different perspective this time because in season 1 you see that Hitch was really was a friend to Annie and she was spending time with her because they were enrolling. I mean, they were having the same role in that sort of a society of a paradise. So uh, it's good that they could meet after some years to analyze what was going on and to get in touch with one another more than before. I really liked that. But as you can see, when Annie is trying to attack her and she's using the same ring of season 1, this goes back to the cycle, to the repetition of events. But at the same time, you see that Annie is weaker than season 1 because, of course, she was staying inside of this cocoon for 4 years. And let me tell you, some people were saying, was Annie growing inside of this cocoon or not? But for some reason, you see that she is a little bit taller than before, but at the same time, you see that her face sometimes it seems still the face of that girl that was confined inside this cocoon by herself. So I don't know if she grew inside that cocoon or not, but sometimes when I see Annie's face, it seems as if she's not grown so much. I mean, she's having the same small face than before, the same height too, or even the same eyes of a season one. And this makes you even the fingers. I don't know, sincerely. She shouldn't grow actually, because by being inside of the cocoon, she is frozen, let's say. And I don't know. This is an interesting question, to be honest. I still have to think about it. But let's see later when she will meet all the others and you can see her standing properly. And we will see if Annie grew or not, as for the height, as for some other characteristics. But when Hitch is pull her down on the ground, you see that Annie is stopped. I saw this on the internet, yeah. Annie is stopped the same as Armin was stopped by Eren. I mean, in the same position like this, in which she's looking at Hitch like that. And people were saying, oh, yeah, in that frame, they are the same, Armin and Annie. And this is not another coincidence, but it makes you understand that these two characters are deeply connected. I found it so interesting, this, yeah. Um, but in that moment, you see that Hitch, mm, she wants to attack Annie. She wants to put her in the same place as before in the basement, but she knows that Annie can transform. So it's pretty hard for her to choose what to do, because she's thinking, oh, now if I attack her or if I perpetrate by doing so, there's the chance that she's going to transform and I, Hitch, am the cause of another damage. Multiple sacrifices coming later too. So what should I do? Should I stop from doing what I'm doing, or should I go ahead? This is a dilemma that Hitch is having, as much as many other characters are having. Even Armin is having this moment of crisis in which he also doesn't know what to do anymore. But this was great because you see that even Hitch is thinking, what should I do? Should I attack her by having even the risk that she can transform? Should I keep going ahead by let her go away from this place so she cannot harm us, or she cannot destroy trust more than what's going to happen now? Or option 3, Hitch can't forget what happened in the past between her and Annie. She can't forget the fact that even Annie was a friend to her. And if that door was opening and Annie would have been put in the basement once again, she was doing something bad to her friend too. Because we don't have to forget that for Hitch, Annie is a friend still. No matter all the bad things that she was doing, Hitch can't erase from her memories what happened or the time they spent together. She can't avoid those memories because they are real. They were not just an illusion, they happened. And no matter if Annie later betrayed her or betrayed the Paradise in general, she is still thinking about those moments too. So as you can see, Hitch is in a hard situation. No matter what she's trying to do, she doesn't know what to do anymore. And anyway, even by protecting that bond, it's something risky, but she can't avoid her feelings no matter what. So I think that this was something great. I think Isayama was making a great choice to give Hitch importance. Even if she's a secondary character, it doesn't matter anything because, sorry, I'm moving a little bit the table because I have to do something. I mean, my husband has to do something in the meantime. But yeah, what I'm saying is that Isayama was doing something good because once again, he is giving an importance to a character that was not supposed to be the main one. But it doesn't matter because even the small characters, even characters who are secondary, thirdly, fourthly, they can have a great importance because they have the power to choose what's coming next. And in fact, the Hichi, by doing this, she is choosing. She is becoming like that piece of the puzzle that can change things. Actually, by releasing Annie, this means that she made a choice, and by making that choice, events can change. So, as you can see, as much as what happened in season 4, part 1, even Sasha's dad was a thirdly character, but no matter this, he was giving this great importance to Sasha's dad that was creating consequences. So all characters of Shingeki no Kyojin can make a difference, can create events that in the future are changing things. You saw, yeah, such as that with Kaya or with Gabi, but even in this case, Hitch was doing this, was trying to um, let Annie go away, and this means that what's happening next, thanks to Hitch's decision, can change things, can modify those things, those events coming later. That's why Isayama was simply great by giving her an importance in this episode. Mm, so we see that Hitch preferred to. Wait a second. Okay. So we see that Hitch preferred to save Annie and to save even the people of trust because she thought, okay, if Annie, if I release Annie and she can go away from here, I am also going to save Paradise somehow from another attack of her if she's transforming. But at the same time, I really think that she was protecting. Now I'm going back. Sorry. um, okay, here we go. She was also protecting, in my opinion, the bond that she was having with Annie because of what I told you before. While she's talking to her, Hitch is discovering something that I already anticipate you in the other analysis. That was my idea. That means that even if Annie was staying inside of the cocoon as much as of Lara Taiba, she could hear things. She could understand what was going on outside, thanks to each voice and Armin's voice, because they were the only two those people who were trying to get in touch with her. So we have the confirmation here that Annie could feel everything and could understand what was going on, especially after being released from the cocoon in the moment in which she could hear Eren's voice and what was going to happen later. Um, um, that was really nice to see these two because Annie, even if she was in the cocoon for 4 years, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, she was still alive, she was still there, and this matters because later we will see that everything that Annie is doing is also because she have heard what Armin was telling her throughout the years. And this makes you already understand that this is another great bond that Annie has with Armin. That, okay, we will see it later, but okay, I'm pretty sure that even Annie loves Armin as much as Armin loves Annie, not because he inherited Bertold, but because he liked her since season one. This is what I believe. But then Hitch is going ahead by asking Annie important questions. I mean, she keeps asking her, how did it feel to destroy other people's lives? How did she feel about that? And what was the consequence inside her heart, inside her mind by doing so? Um, the answer was great. Annie is actually saying the truth. They were praised because of what they were doing. They were praised because they were killing other people. That's true. And there was nothing else to do rather than keep doing so, because they were brainwashed by thinking that by doing this it was something good. And we already saw this in throughout all these seasons, especially the previous one, season 4 part 1, in which they really explain us the conditions in which they were over there. And in Liberia, they were promoting this. They were chosen because it was something good to do, to send them to war and to keep going ahead with this project. So I don't blame Annie, because if I put myself in her position, she was feeling so bad later by what she did, but she was treated so badly by others, and we can't say the contrary. So Annie is another victim of this system, of this cruel world. But I like her honesty, because she was pretty honest by saying everything that happened to her, emotionally speaking. And it's thanks to her background story that we understand why Annie is like this. We understand why Annie is so cold, seems to be so cold hearted. And it's not because she chose to be something like this, but because of a consequence of the previous events that affected her before. So, as I was telling you many times, everything is a consequence of the previous actions, and this is pure philosophy, of course, but this is so great. Yeah, I really liked these two. But in Hitch's opinion, after she heard these first sentence Annie said is, ah, that means Annie wanted to prevent the rumbling throughout all this time, and that's why she was behaving like this was a Hitch's opinion, what the Hitch was thinking. So she thinks, Annie wanted to save the rest of the world by preventing the rumbling, etc., etc. But Annie is honest once again, because she is telling her that it's not correct what she's thinking, because actually Annie didn't want to do anything like this. And if you remember, Annie, as soon as they encountered the problem that the Joe Titan was, I mean, the fake Emir was eating Marcel, Annie was one of the first of the candidates to say, okay, let's go back, because here we can't handle things anymore. We lost Marcel. So she didn't want to go ahead with that mission, actually. She preferred to go back home, but Rainer wanted to go ahead. So Annie is honest here. Once again, she's saying, no, no, I didn't want to prevent the rumbling at all. I didn't mind. I didn't care about all this. She didn't want to save the world. No, not at all. And I really like her honesty here too, because it was pretty cold. And actually, she doesn't care about it, but we understand the reason why she's saying this once we understand her background story. So even in this episode, you understand that the importance of the background story is effective because it makes you understand the reasons why this character behaved like that throughout the times, and you understand also the reason why she is like she is. So Annie was adopted, and her mom was having an affair with an Eldian, the same thing that happened to Reiner. So Reiner and Annie, they have many things in common at this point. You remember that Reiner's dad was a Marlian, and this makes you understand that Annie was born because of an Eldian living, of course, on the other side of the ocean, and a Marlian. So she's a half. That is something that here in Japan you find. I mean, even in the real world here in Japan, if for example, if my husband and I will have a kid, our kid will be called half here in Japan. That means you are not pure Japanese. You are half. That means two different cultures, two different countries that are making this newborn. So even Annie was a half, and Reiner was a half. But anyway, then you see all the background story of Annie. She was taken by her dad, and she was taken into Liberio because he was also finding himself over there for the same reason. So even Annie's dad was a half, maybe. I mean, he was born by two different cultures, by an Eldian and maybe a Marlian at this point. So she's living in Liberio, and this father of her wanted to train her to become a candidate, a Marlian candidate. I mean, an honorific Marlian, sorry. That means a owner of a Titan. Because, not because he was thinking about her condition. Because, look, he was demanding to be her dad. But when you decide to take care of a kid and to make her become your daughter, you think more about her condition instead of yours. This is what parents should behave, actually. But in Annie's case, Annie was doing the parent because she had to become a Titan candidate because she had to rescue her father's conditions. Because her father wanted her to become a candidate because of his personal interest, because he wanted a better condition, not for her but for himself. So this is selfishness, and this is why I don't like these parents of these candidates. That means I don't like Karina at all. I dislike her so much, no matter if she's a Yumi no Tami, no matter if she's an alien living on the other side of the ocean and she was forced to do something like that. I don't like these parents who were forcing these poor kids for their personal interests. Because even Karina was not taking care of Reiner. She didn't care about Reiner. She was just taking care of her condition because she was left by that Marlian that could help her to have Reiner. So she was thinking about her condition instead of his condition. This was simply disgusting. But anyway, she was hit by her father, and if she didn't train as much as he wanted, she was hit, she was punched. I was so angry when I saw these things because I can't stand this, definitely. And he was teaching her those same techniques that we see that she's teaching Eren and all the others, and we understand that those techniques were coming from the country in which her father was born. That was a country that was far away from Marley. I mean, it was another country in the rest of the world. Um, but you can't see love, you can't see a dedication, you can't see affection between Annie's father and Annie. So how are you supposed to believe that Annie was having a warm heart? No. As you can see, she was born in that way, she was raised in that way, a way in which love, affection were not present. So Annie, or the result of what Annie is a reflection of what happened to her in her life. So it was good to see her background story, because thanks to that, I understand that Annie is not cold because she's rude, because she's aggressive, because she doesn't have care, personally speaking. No, this was a result of what she has lived throughout all her existence, and she was just a victim. That's why I feel so empathic with her. I think Annie is really sad about her condition, about her existence. Uh, she was forced to do something she didn't care, she didn't want to do, and all these could create a frustration, a way to release her anger by punching even Reiner sometimes. And this was something that affected me. I feel so sorry for Annie. And I have never expected it to say this, because in season one I was saying, you are a traitor, Annie. How could you betray them like this? Blah, 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 blah. But you all know now that all of these characters had their own beliefs, had their people to protect. And yeah, it makes sense, definitely. But then, uh, and yeah, let me say this too. Annie is the reflection of what the Yumi Rotami are, because she also was used by a person for his sake, and she was like a sort of a slave, because even Annie was a slave over her father, because she had to follow everything that her father was telling her. She had to train, otherwise she was punched, etc., etc., etc. And this father of Annie reminds me of King Fritz, because even King Fritz at that time with Ymir, he was telling her, you have to work well, you have to behave well. If you behave well and if you work well, I will reward you. I mean, I will give you a prize to you. So even this Annie's dad was simply cruel, disgusting as a figure of a parent. um, and in fact later Annie was converting all the pain she felt, all the suffering she felt, all the frustration she felt throughout the years into those punches that she was giving to her dad later. And she was creating like a sort of massacre because she was punching him so hard that even she was saying he couldn't stand anymore. So, though that moment in which she was rebelling to all these and she was punching him so hard, there was everything like this was reflecting her emotions that were pressed throughout the years, and then they were released, as much as what Ymir did after 2000 years. All those pain, suffering, etc., etc., that she felt, they were compressed until the moment in which they were all released, and they were causing a trauma. They were causing a trauma and a drama. But in that moment, while he was eating, he was laughing because he was happy to see how she could defend herself. He was laughing because he was proud of her and her results. Simply crazy. I couldn't stand him in that part of the though that flashback. I couldn't stand Annie's dad as much as I can't stand the Karina, and I can't stand all the other parents who were forcing their kids to do something like this. That's why even Annie later she's explaining the fact that she couldn't feel anything for anybody anymore. She was ineffective. She was not responding to others with the same intensity, with the same dedication, with the same emotions. She was doing everything like a robot. She was emotionless. And it was pretty sad, let me tell you, because actually, this is what all the other kids were feeling living in Liberio. They were not finding acceptation, they were not finding an acknowledgement, or they were not loved. They were just used. So, if you think about it, these parents who were Yumiro no Tami were using their kids Yumiro no Tami for the sake of others, for the sake of Marley, to repent them from the mistakes they made 2,000 years before, but even 100 years before. So, wow, simply wow. And I mean, if you still believe what's happening, it's like as if Annie's father, Karina, all the parents of all these kids who were asking their kids to go to war, etc., 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 they were taken, they were taking this part of their personality from King Fritz. So you need to remember, and I say this once again, that Yumiro no Tami were made by King Fritz and Ymir, but by connecting, by making love, by having sex, let's say, they were creating these descendants, and this means that inside of all Yumi Ronotami there is a side that can resemble King Fritz and a side that can resemble Ymir. But these parents who are sending these kids to wars, they remind me of King Fritz, who are just go, conquer, do your stuff for me. I'm staying here. You go, you can die. Hey, I'm sorry, but you have to go. Do you understand what I mean? No, King Fritz even didn't feel sorry at all. But I hope you understand what I mean. Even Eren, inside of himself, has two sides. The side he could have, could, I'm not sure of this, but he could have both sides. Ymir side because he felt a slave of the rest of the world. And he can have also a side of King Fritz because of what he can do now. That means to restore the dominion of this side instead of the rest of the world, to conquer, to dominate the world by destroying the rest of the world. So, as you can see, there are these two sides that we shouldn't forget about. But Annie, going back to Annie, by being ineffective, by losing her will to love or her will to get in touch with others, and now you understand also her aggressive method or her aggressive answers that she was giving to Reiner when she was saying, because do you remember Reiner was coming next to her like this and she was saying, "Don't touch me." Do you remember? At that time, we said, "Wow, Annie, that was so rude." But no, now you understand that even when she was saying this to Reiner, "Don't touch me," it's because she maybe remembered the moments in which she was punched, that she was hit by her father. And you know that when people are hit or punched, or they are abused of violence and all these things, when people are just trying to touch them, these people are already feeling afraid that their body is already responding instead of themselves, because when the body is abused, violated, and all this stuff, the body itself has a impulse that is detaching itself from everything. So I I think that even Annie at that time, when she was responding like this to Reiner, it was just because of her instinct of not being touched. Mm, so she lost the value of life. She lost the will to live. She lost the way to approach others because she didn't care anymore. She didn't care who was going to survive, who was going to die. She developed a side of her personality that was like a sociopath. And a sociopath is a person that can't really feel anything, can't feel empathy, can't feel emotions, can't feel sad, and all these things. So let's say that Annie, by becoming a sociopath, was a result of the place she was living in, and this was pretty sad. Let me tell you, she was feeling like this until, as much as she says, her dad was going down on his knees. He was saying sorry. He was saying sorry for the mistakes he made. He was saying that he didn't care anymore because at that time Annie was supposed to start her mission to go to paradise and to do what she was supposed to do. But at that time, her father redeemed himself. He didn't want her to go. He wanted to let her stay over there. He understood his mistakes. He said sorry. I like the fact that at least he was repenting. I mean, he was saying sorry. He was admitting his mistakes, something that Karina and all the others were not doing. So Annie's father is a step forward instead of them for this. But why did he change his mind? Did he change his mind because he was already getting in touch with the fear that he could lose her? Was he afraid of losing her because, as always, when you find the moments in which you're going to separate, or when there are the last moment in which you find in front of yourself a person that is alive and that he or she might die soon, you repent yourself and you think about all the bad things you did. So you have this sort of epiphany in which you realize that everything that was happening was simply wrong. It could be. Did something happen to Annie's dad, or did he discover some things throughout the years in which he could develop this thought, and at the end of the day, he was feeling so guilty because of what he discovered. He was guilty because he was putting his daughter in front of this immense damage that could have caused her death, maybe. There are multiple reasons at this point, but the most probable one it was just that Annie's dad was facing, especially in that moment in which they were departure. I mean, when they were going ahead with those missions. Yeah, Annie's dad maybe in that time he was figuring out everything that he was doing, and suddenly he faced the truth. He faced the fact that he was a bad man who caused a lot of troubles and traumas to his daughter. And at this point, maybe he also thought it was better if I didn't pick her up at that day because look at the result. Look what I did to my daughter. I was destroying her more than the mission she's going to fulfill now. So I loved that repentance. I think that what he did was good and it was an inspiration to all the other parents, but the other parents were still focusing and they were still thinking that that was the right thing to do. So Annie said for the first time, I was feeling considered. I mean, I was feeling acknowledged as his daughter, and I was really feel, thanks to those tears, that I was being loved or being cared for the first time. I could find my place in the world. And that feeling made her feel alive, because throughout her existence, she was just following orders from her dad without affection and whatsoever. So she was living her life passively. She was not living her life because of her real intentions or her real will and whatsoever. She was following what other people were telling her to do. And by living an existence like this, you grow up that you can become a sociopath, yes. But at the same time, by feeling this father's response, she was feeling as if she was belonging somewhere, to a specific place, to a specific person. And she was not feeling alone anymore in all this. She was having a bond that she couldn't have before. So even later, Annie feels that she has a place to return to. And this is something great if we're following the ending. Kaeru bashoga nakereba kitto dokoemon yukinai. I mean, if you don't have a place to return to, you can't go anywhere. If you have a place to return to, you can go anywhere. So she now had a place to return to, and this made her feel alive. It made her feel as if she really was living instead of living passively. This was a great change in Annie's mind, in Annie's behavior, because there was somebody that was waiting for her. So by not being alone, she had a purpose in life for the first time after all those years in which she was just condemned to go ahead, go ahead, go ahead without being understood. Because everything that Annie wanted was just creating a bond with somebody to have a place to return to. Yeah. Um. Oh wait. And then another thing that she she was developing, another thought that I really liked. That thought is, everyone has people to protect. Yes. So this doesn't regard Erin only. This regards the entire world. Annie has her dad to protect. Peek has her dad to protect. Reiner has his family to protect. Gabi has her family to protect. Kaya had her family to protect. Levi has his comrades to protect. Eren has his comrades or friends or dear people to protect. Mikasa too, John too. I mean, all characters have people to protect. So they are all the same. They are not different from each other, because this is the instinct that I was repeating you over and over again. This is the instinct of being a human being, because by being a human being, oh, sorry, okay, a disaster. But anyway, by being a human being, you protect, you select. You are not going to protect everybody instinctively. No, you are going to protect only the people you care, only the people you love the most. All the others can come later. This is what we are also doing in real life. We protect the people we love first, and then all the others can come later. So I really like, once again, Annie's honesty here, because she knows, she knows that she caused lots of damages in her life. She knows that she killed lots of people, but she keeps repeating this. If this could help me to protect the people I love, I would redo this once again. This is pure honesty. And that's why I really like Annie as a character, because instead of other characters who are saying, no, let's protect all the people. Because all people matters at the same level. I mean, all people are on the same level. For me, for you, all people matter the same. We can love the people the same. This hypocrisy, okay, that I don't like. I prefer a character like Annie, who's saying definitely what human beings are without being ashamed of this. She's definitely saying, I know what I did. I know that I destroyed lots of lives, but I did this to protect the people I loved, or the people I loved the most. And if those mistakes were made in order to do so, I would have repeated them over and over again. This is not hypocrisy, this is honesty, and I definitely like it. I definitely prefer people who are honest instead of hypocrite. So this is what's happening even with Eren. I mean, Annie is not so different from Eren, because even Annie destroyed lots of lives. Even Annie is not repenting because of this, because she did that to save the people she loves the most. And that's why if I like Annie for her honesty, I also like Eren for the same thing, because even Eren, as no matter the fact that he's tricked by power and he's destroying the world, blah 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 blah, but he's doing the same thing Annie was doing. That means to protect the people he loves the most. Um, but let me tell you, um, yeah, Annie is saying, if by doing these mistakes I can go back to my father, I will be ready to do so over and over again. I will repeat those mistakes over and over again if this means that I can go back to the place I belong. It's like Eren. Eren is destroying the world, or is destroying the rest of the world, because he wants to protect his people. But at this point, I wanted to ask myself, as much as Annie wanted to destroy lots of lives because that was the only way to go back to her dad, does Eren wanted to do something like this because he wants to go back to his mom? That means he wants to be killed, he wants to be dead or destroyed in order for him to go back to his mom. That is his mom, of course, is the first place that he could return to. That was what I thought throughout this episode, especially when Annie was saying this. I thought, okay, does Eren want to go back to his mom? That means, does Eren want to die because by doing this he can reach the same place that he can return to? That means his mom. That could be so nice. To be honest, yeah. Then, sorry, I drink a little bit. We go back to Liberio for a second, because you see that Annie's dad is trying to convince Marlians that there is the Jinarashi, there is the rumbling coming. Karina, I hate her so much, let me tell you. But Karina is still calling them demons. See, now everything is happening as we were saying. The demons are coming. But anyway, that's why I prefer Annie's dad instead of her at this point. Because look, Annie's dead. If he really wanted to have a revenge, let's say on Marlians at that time, he could have said, "Oh look, the Jinarashi is coming. Take it, so we can have our revenge for all the times that you were treating us so badly like this. No, Annie's dad was trying to spill the tea to them and to tell them, look, we are about to be destroyed, we are about to be killed, all you too. So this is not something that it regards us this time, but it regards you once again. But then the malicious thoughts that Marlians were having on them, because Marlians, they were thinking that those aliens in Liberia were saying this because they wanted to find a way to escape from there. And they were telling that to them because they were just faking and stuff like this. As I told you many times, this makes you understand that even if Eren didn't destroy the rest of the world, they couldn't find a compromise, because Marlians and the rest of the world, they were not even trusting them in this case. They are not trusting aliens by saying that the Jinarashi, the rumbling, is coming to destroy them. They were not trusting. But they will be they will be trusted when it will be too late. And at that time, things can't change. But in these frames, in these scenes, you understand that no matter what aliens are trying to do in order to protect even Marlians and the rest of the world, they will never be trusted. And this is a matter of fact because this is happening. Mm, Plus, another thing that I didn't like is when once again aliens, they have to go down their knees, they have to bow, they have to be punished, and this is pure injustice because they are punished for something they didn't do. Because if they really wanted to escape from there, they would have done it already. Somehow, if they joined the forces, if all aliens would have joined the forces, they could have broken that gate over there and they could have escaped. But they didn't do that so far. So what these Marlians are trying to do is something discriminatory. I mean, this is another frame in which you see pure discrimination, pure racism. And no matter if this time aliens wanted to save them too, because this Jinarashi that is coming is not affecting just the aliens, it's affecting the rest of the world, but they were not trusted. So this is something crazy. But at the same time, of course, if I put myself in Marlian's position, I would think, why should I trust these people who are saying these things just because of their personal interests? But Annie's dad was right because he was telling them, look, even other aliens living in the other districts in the rest of the world, they can tell you the same. How are we supposed to communicate with one another if we live in different areas of the world, but at the same time we are saying almost the same things? That could have been the proof, or that could have been a chance for Marlians to change things and to say, okay, wait, I'm going to call the district of somebody else, some other nations, ask them if you felt ask them if they felt the same thing, ask them the details you said. If they are the same, it means that you're right. No, they didn't do this. Even if they could change things, Marlians kept saying, no, I think that you could communicate, I think that this is not impossible. This is just a way to condemn them no matter what. So once again, this proves you that if Eren didn't destroy the world, and it's a paradox, but if Eren didn't choose to do what he did, these things will not have been changed. I mean, Yumi Ronotami were always being considered the slaves of the world. And in this episode, you had the proof of this. Um, by let them go down on their knees, by being punished without a proof of them being right or wrong, just to be punished just because they were aliens. This superiority that was confirmed over and over again, even when they could find a way to change things, because they could, as I told you, they could have called on the other district and say, look, can you ask one of those aliens and tell them what they are saying, what did they see, and stuff like that. No, they didn't even want to ask. And this makes you understand that no matter what aliens are trying to do for the best, they are not listened, they are not trusted, they are not even heard. This is sad. But then, at this point, Annie's dad could find inside himself this resilience, this strength that was definitely more important than anything else. And once again, in this episode, you understand one main concept, that the promise is more important than anything. The promise that it goes beyond the failure, goes beyond this discrimination, goes beyond this bad treatment they had. The promise that can give them still hope, like in the case of Annie's dad, because Annie's dad is moved by this promise that he made with his daughter. And this promise is like a sort of hope that makes him going forward, pushed himself forward. Um, this promise that is more important than anything, that can let him react to this huge punishment, one more punishment that they had. This promise that goes even beyond the death, because now those aliens who rebelled were supposed to be confined into jails. But this promise that Annie's dad had with his daughter is even more important than this. And this attack that he made on these guards makes you understand this, that if you have an attachment, if you have a bond, if you have a something you really care, you are ready to go beyond your limits. And this is what Annie's dad did, actually. Not just Annie's dad, but even Eren. Because Eren went beyond his limits because of this sort of a promise that he made to his friends to save them, because they are the most important people to him. Then we move to Sadis, and let me tell you, um, Sadis surrenders. I mean, sorry, I'm stretching my body because it's 9 a.m. in the morning and I started at 7 a.m. more or less. But anyway, Sadis decides to surrender to life, and he already imagines his destiny. This is sad, yeah, but after this huge moment that he had in the previous episode, in which he was becoming like a sort of commander of all the others, it's like as if Sadis has to go back to what he was before. I mean, even if he had this peak in the previous episode, then now it's like as if he has to go back to the role he had before, and to this sort of disillusion that he had about himself by not feeling special at all. And in fact, he is remarking the fact that he's from the ancient regime. I mean, from the old regime that was ruling in paradise before, and that old regime doesn't have to exist anymore, because you know that at that time even the old regime was pretty corrupted, let's say. We saw this in season 3 part 1, but even in season 1, actually, do you remember? And yeah. Mm, I think Sadi's existence will not change at this point. He already decided what to do about his life, and he prefers to die instead of surviving, because at this point, It's like as if he's saying now it's the time for new generations to change things. Now it's no more my time because I had the chance at that time to change things, but I preferred to surrender to myself. I preferred to avoid this change, and I preferred my role as it was because I didn't feel special at all, etc., etc. You all know this, but he is feeling confident that maybe the new generations can change things and can create something even better than the previous one. So I like somehow the fact that Sadis is encouraging these new generations for the future by telling them, look, now I he says, now I know that you can't do anything because you are not even good to fight when it's time to fight. But remember that one day you have to stand up by yourself and you have to find a solution. So he's encouraging them, but at the same time, he's admitting that at this present time, they are not able to do anything. And there will be a moment in the future in which they can stand up again and they can find the solution if they don't lose themselves, if they still care about themselves, and if they can not and if they cannot lose what they are. This is a great suggestion that Sadis is giving. It's a great advice, and this advice is coming from an older generation that is going to maybe create in the new generation as much as of what Nile was saying to Falco when he was trying to protect him, and it was a great way, or when he was telling to Falco that it was nice to go back to his family and to spend time with his family. Yes, you see these old generations that are already admitting that their existence is gone, that their chances are gone, because when they had their chances, they didn't fulfill anything. They preferred to go ahead and they were not brave enough to solve things somehow. Even Sadis was the same. But this is a way to count on the new generations and tell them that they will have the chance to do so. And when there will be that time, they have to stand up and they don't have to lose themselves. That was a great advice that Sadis was giving. And as much as I appreciated Niles' advice, I appreciate even his advice. It's like as if he's saying, now my time is gone. Now it's your time to change things for better. This was like a way to go ahead with what's coming next. And as you see, the new generations have the great power to change things. It depends on how they are instructed by the previous ones. Because if we see even Sasha's dad belongs to an old generation. But the way in which he is teaching to Niccolo, to Gabi, to these new generations, how to handle things, how to solve, how to try to be better than them, this is so great. This makes you understand that even if all the generations were corrupted, were wrong, were doing something bad, especially even in the Liberio's side, there are even people who redeem themselves, who understand their mistakes, and who are trying to educate the new generations for better. These are the people that I appreciate the most. People who understand their limits and they are accepting them by facing the truth. This is so great. Then we go ahead with the scene of Mikasa and Armin. Oh. I mean, Armin is saying that he will do everything of his best to try to convince Connie not to give Falco to his mom. And he is also saying that by trying to convince Connie, it will be a chance for him to be trusted by Gabi, because Gabi is a friend of a Pick, Gabi is a friend of Reiner, Gabi is, let me say, pretty important because she can also be trusted by Magath. So Gabi is really essential right now. If we Armin still believes that they can find a point in common if they talk. Or anyway, Armin is still that strategical man that is always thinking multiple ways to control all these things and to find a solution by doing so. And this is what he's doing right now by saying this. Uh, he is really logical in his mind in this episode too, because he is analyzing everything that is going on, and by saying what I told you 1 minute ago, he is using lots of reason right now instead of feelings. He is putting aside his feelings for the moment, and he is thinking, look, now I have to stop Connie because of this, because of this, because of this. So even if it's painful, I love Armin because he is not stopping using a reason, and he is not following the stream of feelings that other characters are doing. And that's why, even if I don't agree with what he's saying later, but that's why I think that Armin is essential in this story, especially here in this moment, because we need a logical mind here. We need even the rudeness he's using towards Mikasa, because by doing this, he's just detaching himself from the feelings he can also feel. And Armin is in a difficult position because he has Annie on one side and he loves her. Then he has lost his best friend Eren, who is creating the damage for the rest of the world because he wants to save them. He has Mikasa to handle, and Mikasa is in a hard situation too. He has the situation to handle throughout all Paradise because he was saved instead of Erwin. So he has to find a solution. All these things are making him so frustrated, and the way in which Armin lost his mind, I really appreciate it. I really liked it because Armin, throughout all these years, was always so calm. He was always protecting others. He was always trying to find a solution and to calm the tempers down of all the others. He was trying to find the peaceful way, but in this episode, he reached the limit and he exploded. And I was waiting, or I was hoping to find a moment in which Armin too was collapsing because he is a human. So if he was always finding the solution in the best way, let's do like this, let's do like that, etc., 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 it was pretty disappointing because even Armin is a human being. So even Armin has the right to explode, to being angry, to be tired, to express his feelings once for all. Because, as I told you, he was always using reason, rational moments, rational, until you explode. Because even Armin, by being a human being, he's made of feelings too. And he can't deny them, okay? So it was really nice to see these descendants, this journey on Armin's feelings at that moment. He's tired. He's impulsive for the first time. He is frustrated. He is thinking that didn't deserve to be alive. He thinks so many things. And wow, everything is on his shoulder, as always, most of the times. And he is also able at this point to, as I told you, to step back from feelings. Because of course, if you ask Armin, don't you feel sad of what happened to Connie's mom? Of course, he will say yes. But he is ready to ask Connie to let his mother stay like that because of the rest of them, because of the consequences that this can give to them. This is something rational, and Armin is rational most of the times. He is not the typical character like Mikasa or Eren, in which Eren is using feelings, impulsivity instead of instead of reason, instead of rationalism. This is why these two characters are different, because Eren is a pretty instinctive, while Armin is always over there thinking about a plan B, plan C, plan D, and this makes a great difference. But here, after he was following this stream of consciousness based on reason, suddenly he was forced to release his feelings too because of what Mikasa is asking him. That means, what should I do? What about Eren? I mean, in that moment, I feel both of them. I mean, if I put myself in Armin's position, I would have replied the same. I would have said, Mikasa, it's time for you to think with your own mind, and you should stop asking others about what to do. You should stop asking others orders, because now we are not in a position in which we should give orders to others. Now we are in a position in which everything is disbanded, and we are just a singular individual, we are just a single individuals playing this role as a single individuals. So Mikasa was always used to follow orders because she was giving orders. She was she was receiving orders by others. She was following Eren because Eren was the source of her happiness. She was always depending on others, that it was in general. So when Eren was telling her, look, you depend on me just because I should be the king, because I have the Shiso Titan, etc., because I saved you, blah, 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 blah. Now, actually, you understand that what Eren was saying is partially true, but also partially fake, because Mikasa doesn't is asking even to Armin what to do, as if she's depending on him too, not just depending on Eren. So if I put myself in Armin's position, I would have said, come on, Mikasa, find your own thoughts and think for yourself for a second. So his reaction was a pretty true, was realistic, was the reaction of a person who is having enough because of all these situation, because of all the mess that was created, and he didn't even expect this. We know that. If I put myself, so I understand Armin, but I also understand Mikasa, because Mikasa was used to live a life like this. Mikasa was depending on others because of what happened to her life, because suddenly she was stolen by her own parents. She was finding herself completely alone suddenly, like this. And she couldn't have had the possibility to grow naturally, in the most natural way, that means by being taught by her parents, by grow next to them. I mean, she was living a trauma since the beginning of her existence, and this trauma of losing her life, her usual life, her parents, everything, condemned her to be dependent on somebody, to depend on somebody. So it's not Mikasa's fault. It's just a consequence of what happened to her life. And some people can just say that Mikasa is a good for nothing because if she doesn't have orders, she doesn't think about her life, about her thoughts. It's so easy to say something like this. We should put ourselves in Mikasa's position to understand her fragility and her trauma. Um, Also, because now the person she was depending on is gone. I mean, Eren is gone. And Eren was also the same person who promised her to put that scarf around her neck forever. So by hearing something like this, she was also thinking, maybe, yeah, this will happen actually. I mean, I will always stay next to Eren forever. So I will be sure that Erin will be there for me. But once she's realizing that the years are passing, that means that Erin will die anyway, or the moment in which she is realizing that probably that that moment, I mean, the moment in which she was said, I was always hating you since we were kids, will also be the last moment in which she will see Erin. And now Erin will not go back as before. She is losing herself. She is losing her integrity. She is losing everything. So this trauma is repeated in her life. She's losing Erin. She's losing the place she's belonging to. She's losing even Armin because now they are separating. So Mikasa is going back to that trauma of the beginning. Before being saved by Eren, her parents were killed. She was feeling completely alone. And we should remind this. We should remember the fact that Mikasa is so strong, physically speaking, but she is fragile, mentally speaking. So this dualism is creating Mikasa. But now that she lost the thing, the person, that means Eren, the same person that could give her this strength in those moments in which she was needed to have this strength, at the same time now only the fragile part is missing, is left, and this strong part is missing because the purpose is missing here. So I really like the fact that they are showing us this fragility of Mikasa, because she is losing everything. She is losing the ground under herself, and this is not a nice condition. So I understand her too. And in the moment in which even Armin is realizing this, he is stopping and she's saying sorry. That it's a sorry. I really wanted to hug Mikasa. Really, I wanted to hug her and tell her that she was so great throughout all this time, and it's not her fault by being so, by being like this. It's just the curse of events. And unfortunately, now, no, it's not unfortunately. I mean, I really hope that Mikasa is finding her own confidence, and maybe this moment in which she will stay alone, even if Armin told her to stay next to John. But I hope that this moment for Mikasa will be so useful for her to find her stability, to find her balance in life, to find a moment in which she can think by herself. And so by being herself and by being alone in this moment, it's not just something bad, it's something really propositive. And this moment can help her to build her own thoughts, her own actions that are not based on what Armin or what Eren are telling her to do, but it's based on her instinct. So this moment will be useful for me because I'm pretty sure. Um, then Armin, when he's exploding against her, in that moment, he's saying, now Eren is gone. I mean, Eren, we can't do anything for him anymore. There's not the time now to think about him. Well, in that moment, Armin, I really like when he said something like this, because look, throughout the seasons, Armin was always taking care of Eren. Armin was always trying to save him. Do you remember? He was always trying to ask Eren, come on, remember, Eren, the reason why you are here. Ah, Eren, do you remember this? Ah, Eren, he also feels guilty, okay? Because it's because of Armin who showed that book to Eren that now we are in this situation. So Armin feels guilty. I'm pretty sure that he feels guilty, not just because he can't find a solution in this moment of pure desolation, but also because he thinks, look, It was thanks to me that we are in this situation right now, because I showed Aaron that book, in which I showed him the continents, in which I showed this huge dream we had. So let's put ourselves into Armin's position too. And it's pretty hard to handle all these, huh? Um, so Armin, for the first time, is showing this frustration that was compressed years for years, year after year, year after year. And he is gone. I mean, the Armin that usually is using a reason is gone for a second, but then he is going back to what he was usually. That means the logical one, the person who was using reason. But the thing that he's saying is, if Erwin would have been here, things would have been different. He probably would have answered to you in a different way. That's why I think that Erwin was the best choice. This is what Armin is saying. But I don't agree. I definitely don't agree. Because Erwin, I remind you this, Erwin was sending people to death. And even if Erwin is a great character, I definitely prefer Armin here. Because Armin is still trying to find a way to save people instead of condemning them to death. He is always trying to find a way to punish himself instead of punishing others, or drag others to hell too. And this is different, let me tell you. As much as Armin is useful here, not just for this, but also because he is the only one who can get in touch with Mikasa in a particular way, and who can guide Mikasa to understand her feelings. So, what Armin did now, the answer Armin gave to Mikasa is not something negative at the end of the day. As I told you, this reaction Armin had towards her was a propositive, because it would be helpful for her to realize who she is, and to find her place in this cruel world, her own place, not the place of what other people are telling her to have. So what Armin was doing to her, it was good. It was not something bad. So Armin is punishing himself for no reason, in my opinion. Because yeah, things could have been different. Yeah, that's true. But that doesn't mean that they would have been better than this. Nobody can guarantee this. So no, I don't think Erwin would have done something better, sincerely. Especially if, in the case of Mikasa, in the previous episode, Armin was there trying to comfort her, trying to tell her that there was a reason why Eren was behaving like this. So now even Mikasa has her heart ready to accept that Eren is doing what he's doing to save them. If Erwin was there, I don't think that Erwin would have say something like this. So, Armin, even if you think that you're hopeless, and even if you think you're not a great commander of all this situation, I think that at the end of the day, you were chosen for a reason. And it's not good to say that it was better not to be saved. It's not good to say that it was better that other people were saved instead. You had the chance to be saved, so you should appreciate this occasion that you have to solve things, because it's never too late. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I mean, I don't know if he can. Sorry, I don't know if he can convince Connie to refrain from doing what he is trying to do, but At this point, I think that he will, because he will save Falco. I don't think that the Falco will be dead like this. I think Falco, I told you already, I think Falco will survive. Okay, he has a 13 years right now because he became a Titan, an intelligent Titan, but I think Falco, anyways, will survive after Eren's destruction. As much as Gabi. So I think that at this point, Armin will find a way to help Connie understand all this. Let's see. But I'm quite confident because the way in which Armin is handling things makes you understand that Armin is intelligent, that Armin is smart, and he knows how to find a solution. If he will find a solution for Connie, this makes you understand that it was good that Armin was saved instead of Erwin. So I think, and I hope, that Armin in the next episodes will find the confidence to understand that he was chosen because the story is already written and it had to be like this somehow. Um, and then we see that the scarf is missing. Oh no. But it's something good anyway, because it's all part of the process of Mikasa to regain her own self. So that the scarf maybe was creating some limits to her, but now that she doesn't have the scarf anymore, and now that she's alone because Armin is gone, Eren is gone, she has to think by herself. This is part of all this process that can help Mikasa instead. And yeah, the scarf is gone. I feel so sorry for that, but I think that the scarf will be back for sure, because that's the Akaito, that it's unifying Eren and Mikasa, and I don't think that that scarf will be gone forever. I think that it will be back, but we still have to understand who took that scarf. If it's Armin who took that scarf, maybe he did it on purpose, because he maybe thought, okay, if I take the scarf away from Mikasa, maybe Mikasa can start thinking by herself and she can get rid of it. I mean, without the scarf, Mikasa is Mikasa Ackerman. With the scarf, Mikasa is becoming Mikasa, who is a friend of Armin, who is Eren's lover, I mean, a person who loves Eren. I mean, she's always depending on something. But without that scarf, without being helped, she can develop her own personality. So was that Armin who stole the scarf for this proposal? Maybe, because actually he was preparing himself, and maybe before Mikasa reaching over there, he could have taken the scarf. Could have been Louise who took the scarf, because Louise knew that the scarf was there, because Louise loves Mikasa so much. She is devoting herself to Mikasa. And this is pretty bad, let me tell you, because Louise right now is playing the role of Yelena somehow, because even Louise was rescued at that time, and then Louise developed such a great admiration to Mikasa, as much as Yelena was rescued by Zeke, and then Yelena worshipped Zeke throughout all this time. So as you can see, when the people are idolizing these characters, these human beings, I don't like it so much. I mean, I was really happy when Mikasa rescued Louise in season one, but now I don't like Louise so much, because she's just worshipping Mikasa as if she's a goddess. And no, I really don't like that. So if she stole the scarf, that was really something really bad to do, because she really knows that Mikasa is attached to that scarf because of her feelings to Eren, and it's quite disrespectful to get the scarf away from her. So I don't like that. If that's Louisa who stole the scarf, I don't like that. I hope that she will have the chance to give her back the scarf, because that's not her business. She has to mind her own business and her own feelings. If she loves Mikasa, she can tell her directly, "Look, Mikasa, I love you." It's even more respectful than doing this. Even if she already knows the answer, yeah. But anyway, it could be more admirable for her to reveal her feelings instead of stealing things from Mikasa. This is something disrespectful. I hope that if that's Louisa who stole the scarf, she is going to tell us the reason why she did that. Because if it's just because I wanted it to take a piece of you, Mikasa, I know that you always have the scarf around of your neck, and let's get this scarf from you so I can have a piece of you. No, this is something that I would not like to see. I hope that she has another reason. Um, then, going ahead with another scene, we see that we go back to Gabi and Sasha's family. Sasha's mom that is hugging Gabi is so great. I really loved that moment. This is a moment of development. This is a goal that is achieved here. The words of the way in which Sasha's dad is trying to comfort Gabi by telling her, "Look, you will find Falco, you will rescue him, don't worry." All this beautiful result that makes you understand that nothing is impossible. Yeah, there are still moments in which you can change people's mind if you really want, if you really find the proper way to do so. But you understand in this story that people are changing their mind just after there is a violent moment. I mean, after there's violence, people are going to recognize everything. People are going maybe to change their mind. But sometimes those moments are too late to create a development or to create a difference. Some other time, you can say, okay, it's possible. There is always the risk in this case. In this moment with the Sasha's family, we understand that this moment was good and the goal was reached. But it's not always like this. Sometimes it can work, some other times it doesn't work. It depends. But I'm so happy even when, sorry, I'm stopping the heater because, okay. Then I really liked even the moment in which Kaya was saying Genki dene. That means I hope you will feel fine. I hope you will be okay. This is something that, of course, in season 4, part 1, we couldn't expect. I mean, we could have imagined that something was happening, but not in such a beautiful way. And Gabi, by hearing something like this, by hearing this attachment, this bond that keeps going on no matter what, she decided to reveal herself for what she really was. That means not Mia, but Gabi. And this was a step forward for her because it means that Gabi was trusting Kaya and her family in that moment so much that she could reveal her real identity. And this was a really nice because Gabi could achieve something else once again by feeling confident enough to spill the tea and say, "Look, my name is not Mia, it's Gabi." And when Kaya is hearing that name, she said, "Ah, Gabi, that's strange. I prefer Mia." At that time, when she's saying something like this, it seems as if they are joking and they are having this funny moment, blah 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 blah. But I think that when Kaya is saying something like this, it means no, it's better Mia because Mia is a different person from Gabi. Now Mia is different. Now it's a thanks to Mia that Gabi could change. It's a thanks to what happened while Gabi, was Mia, that she could uh, she could realize all the bad mistakes that she made and all the reality as it was. So Mia is definitely better than Gabi also for this. And if you remember, in Italian, mia, it means mine. So it was like as if Kaya was already having this attachment to Gabi, and she was saying, no, it's better Mia, because now Gabi is like a sort of a sister to her. She was acknowledging her as her sister because she had this vision of a Sasha that was telling her that everything would have been fine. So it's like as if, no, it's better Mia because you are my sister. And yeah, all these connections between the names and the logical thoughts, it's so amazing. I really liked that too, definitely. And then they are saying goodbye by hugging each other. I hope, as I was telling you during the reaction video, that they are going to meet again, that they are going that Gabi is going to meet Kaya again in the future, because I think both they will survive, and there will be a chance for them to go ahead with this beautiful relationship that started. I really hope so. I really, really hope that everything will turn in the best way, because this is what they deserve. They deserve a peaceful ending, and they deserve to go ahead with this relationship. And the way they were hugging was, oh, so beautiful. I was waiting for that moment for such a long time, and when it happened, oh, it made me feel so emotional. Then we go ahead with another scene in which we see Flock. Oh, Flock, yes. Even you in the comments were saying something that I already knew. That means that Flock is the promoter of that forest. We all know, because of also because of his surname, Forsters. That is becoming from I mean, it's coming from German language, and it's something related to the forest. So yeah, definitely Flock is the main example of a person, of a Yumi Runotami, that is following the King Fritz purpose instead of the Ymir one. And yeah, and no, both of them actually. Yeah, he wants to dominate others, but then when he's saying, what's so wrong to be dominated by others? I mean, that's pretty incoherent. But okay, let's go step by step. um Anyway, Flocky is the promoter in this story of the forest, of the terror, of the imposition, of the conquest. Um, so we see this mean character, let's say, that at the same time is pretty coherent with what they are, because by being Yumiro no Tami and by descending also from King Fritz, he is perpetrating a coherence somehow that is logical. And I don't want to condemn the Flock as much as I don't want to condemn all the characters, because all characters, as you can see, they have their own beliefs, and they really believe to all these. Then we can agree or not, that's another thing. But I don't want to condemn even a character like Flock, because I think that because of everything that he was passing through, he was having these decisions he had. And I will tell you later what I mean, the more we go on. But oh, then John is asking him, because in the meantime, Flock is torturing somehow, mentally speaking, these volunteers that they don't know where to go anymore, and they are saying, look, now we are dominating this island, we, that means the Jaegerists. You can be part of us, or you can die. You choose. I mean, you can stay under us, or you can be finished. But John is asking him, who gave you this role? I mean, why are you pretending to be the king here, the person who's choosing everything? And the Flock is saying that 10 months before, Eren already told him all his project regarding betraying Zeke and whatsoever, etc., etc. My question is this true or not? If it's true, if it's yes, um, Flock was just used by Eren. To put it simply, okay, if you hear the train in the background, it's because now we are living almost next to the station, so sometimes you hear the trains. Sorry, but If it's yes, Flock was just used by Eren. I mean, many people who are saying that Eren was trusting Flock so much that he could reveal everything to him. No, he was just used by Eren because Eren really remembers what in season 3, part 2, Flock was saying in the moment in which there was the proper time to choose Erwin or Armin. Do you remember at that time? Flock demanded, I mean, Flock wanted, pretended to think that it was necessary to go ahead on the other side of the ocean thanks to a demon. I mean, that this story would have been solved if a demon could have handled all this. Eren was there when he was saying those sentences. So Eren knows how to trick a flock. Eren knows how to let him think that he's important in all this story by giving him a role like this. So, Flock, sorry to say, but you are not important to Eren. You were just used if what Flock is saying is true. That means if for real Flock 10 months before knew what Eren's purposes were. Uh, we just needed to go back in season 3, part 2. Over there was the answer. I mean, what Flock wanted was to let Erwin survive because Erwin, in his opinion, was the perfect demon. Because of course he condemned Erwin condemned the flock to death, so he was thinking that Erwin was the best choice because Paradise needed a demon to go ahead with this. And Eren, by hearing these sentences because he was there, he knew how to get Flock on his side and use him. Yes. If what Flock said is not true, that means that he didn't know everything that was going ahead 10 months before, as much as he's saying to John, etc., etc., this means that Flock is inventing all this for his personal interest. That means to gain this power on the island, because he knows anyway that Eren is going to die soon because there are not so many years left. And maybe, yeah, he invented, it could be, he invented all this just to take the control of the island. And maybe Eren told him to do some things, but Flock interpreted these words maybe in a different way by creating his dominion in his mind. So, as you can see, both the probabilities can be true, but I still wanted to prefer the fact that Eren told him those things for real 10 months before, but not because he thought that Flock was important to him. Flock is not part of those people Eren wants to save. Flock is not a part of those dear people he has in his heart. So he doesn't care about Flock. He was just used as a tool to reach that goal. But I still believe that, yeah, at this point, Eren told the flock everything that he wanted to do just to let him feel important because this is what he really wanted to be. Flock wanted to be important, to have a role, and by dying thanks to Erwin, he couldn't have that role. So, as you can see, Eren knows how to trick people so well, and we know that already. So I don't think it was so difficult for him to trick Flock at all, to be honest. And in fact, even Flock now he feels that he's a part of this project of salvation. He feels as if he is also a hero, and Eren wanted this. I mean, he wanted that Flock felt that way because it's thanks to this will of being the savior, of being the hero, that Eren in the meantime could go ahead with his project. So it was healthy, let's say, for both sides in this case. Mm, But then he says to these volunteers, look, you can be spared if you join us as aliens, and if you decided to stay under the Jaegerists, we can save them. We are just calling you aliens from now on, and the problem is solved. At this point, let me tell you, I don't think that Eren wanted this. It's a little bit antithetical, don't you think? I mean, Flock is saying that to these volunteers that they can become aliens when these volunteers were guided by Yelena, who was guided by Zeke, and Zeke was the traitor. And Eren is going against Zeke. So Eren, if he goes against Zeke, he's going also against Yelena, and he's going against all these volunteers too, because they are all following the same person. That means Zeke. So what Flock is doing right now is not what Eren wants, sincerely. Because Eren doesn't want to find in paradise people who were following a traitor, that means Zeke. And this makes you understand that Flock and Eren, they have a little bit a different way of thinking. I definitely don't think that Eren wanted to save Yelena or wanted to save, okay, Onyankopon. Yeah, because actually he was not following Yelena entirely, so okay, could be. But Yelena, at this point, I don't know if she will be killed or not. But if she will be saved, that's something that Eren didn't want, to be honest. So, see, what Flock is saying that he is speaking for Eren. No, I don't think so. It's just that Flock in this case just wants to be almighty, and this time he wants to decide for others, while in season 3 part 2 Erwin decided for him, and he was forced to go to death. Now he thinks that he is I mean, when he is explaining this concept of a freedom of Flock, he is saying this also because for this, in this time, in this moment, is a Flock who is deciding for others, and not like what happened in season 3, part 2, when he was forced to follow what Erwin was saying no matter what. So, as you can see, I think that the freedom he's thinking is just the freedom of being superior than others. There's a freedom to choose for others instead of being forced to do what other people are saying for him. Do you understand? So I think for Flock is still there the trauma of what happened with Erwin in season 3, part 2, and all these resentment, all these fear he felt of dying in that moment is perfectly or directly connected with what's happening now. But anyway, uh, but this will to be almighty and to decide everything that has to be done with this weapon, etc., etc. He is also like Yelena. Flock is like Yelena because Flock, he's worshipping Eren as much as Yelena was worshipping Zeke and his plan. And he is using the same weapon Yelena was using in season 4, part 1, when he was uh, pointing those weapons on pixies and all the others. As you can see, every time we find the people who are worshipping other people, this is going back and forth, but you understand also from all these aspects that people are not so different. They are almost the same. You find many things in common between all these characters. Um, and then why I'm saying all this stuff regarding season 3, part 2, Erwin, Flock, etc., etc. Because when he's talking to John, because John is speechless when he sees that Flock is going to kill one volunteer like this without a problem, just because he was rebelling to what he had to say. And this means like a sort of totalitarianism, because Flock is imposing this totalitarianism on these volunteers who don't want to stay under him, and they try to rebel. No, there is no excuse for Flock. Everybody has to die if they don't agree. So this is a sort of a totalitarianism, you understand, like a dictator. Okay, but when he's saying to Flock, sorry, when Flock is saying to John, there's no need to die because of pride. When he's saying this sentence, he is going against Erwin, actually. Because Erwin at that time, he was telling them to go to death because they had to be proud of what they were doing. That means to save the rest of the paradise and to bring back the memories of all the people who were sacrificing themselves before them. So Erwin, by saying this, he was saying that this was something good to do because it was a way also to remember all the people who were sacrificing themselves for them before. So when the flock is saying this to John right now, it's because he's still against Erwin. He's still against of everything that he caused because of that suicide attack, in which he was one of the protagonists. I mean, Flock was one of those people over there who were forced to die at that time. So all these sentences, I think that they are still a reflection of that attack. Yeah. And when he's also saying, what's wrong of being oppressed? What? I mean, this reminds me of King Fritz, first of all, because he was not afraid to oppress others. On the contrary, it was that his purpose. That means to perpetrate a new sort of a slavery, and this is what King Fritz did actually, because once he conquered the villages of Ibir, etc., he developed this idea to turn them into slaves. So the flock is doing the same thing right now, and it's a way to perpetrate the forest. Yes, the forest that Sasha's dad is talking about. Yes, but flock. mm, I don't think that Eren would want something like this, sincerely, and that's why Flock is not going ahead with Eren's mind, with Eren's thoughts, because and that's why I don't agree with Eve when Flock is saying I'm speaking for Eren. No, because Eren doesn't want others to become slaves. He doesn't like oppression. Since season one, he doesn't like that. Even if those volunteers are not Yumiru no Tami, I don't think that Eren would agree with the behavior Flock is having right now. So, not at all. But also, Flock, you're incoherent. If you admit to be oppressed, why you wanted to go against the rest of the world and against the Marley? Because they wanted to oppress you. So if you think that by being oppressed is something good, so you should be oppressed you in the first place, right? This is a little bit incoherent. And I know that Flock is saying that sentence sarcastically speaking, but when you say that, it's incoherent no matter what. Um, by saying this, I know that Flock is making that face as if he's saying it ironically or sarcastically speaking. But the way in which that question is put over there is come on, you were oppressed for 2000 years, so it's not good to be oppressed, of course. And now you just wanted to get your personal revenge because you were always oppressed, so now it's your turn to oppress. If we go on like this, the forest will keep going ahead with this light motif. So mm, it's something not good to do. And that's why I'm saying that even if Eren is saving a paradise, now I don't know if Flock will survive, okay? But if paradise will be in this condition, Eren, even if you save the dear people you love, maybe these dear people you love will go against the flock one day, so they will go to jail, they will be imprisoned once again, they will stay inside of a cage once again. So as you can see, things are not going to change. Because no matter if paradise will survive, inside the paradise there can be always corrupted people as much as there were in the past. So mm, And at this point, yeah, I know what Eren wants to do. Of course, he wants to restore. I mean, he wants to let all these people be free from the slavery that was imposed on them 2000, for 2,000 years. But at the same time, he also prefers to save his dear people instead of the rest of the world. But by letting them free from that slavery, maybe another slavery can be created. Do you understand what I mean? And if we follow the Jaegerists and what they are doing now, it's another sort of a slavery. If John, Mika, Armin, and all the others will go against the Flock, Flock can threaten them and put them in jail. So once again, another cage, and the things are going to be repeated over and over again. So, Eren, I understand what you mean. I understand what you want to do, but is this going to change things? I don't think so. So it's bad. It was better at this point. Look, let me tell you one thing. At this point, it was better to destroy everything. Tabula rasa. That means erase everything. Because if you prefer to save somebody, you have to take into the account the fact that there will be always the risk that things can repeat again. Until human beings are alive, this risk can always be present, because human beings are poor, human beings are weak, and can be tricked easily. So, mm, then is a saying. The Flock is saying, instead of dying like this, because he was a boom, he was killing one of these volunteers. Isn't it better to survive? Flock, this happened for 2,000 years for you. So if what you say is good, and I know that he's saying this sarcastically speaking, but it's incoherent anyway. If for 2,000 years you lived like that and you were going against all these, and you're promoting this way to attack the rest of the world for this reason, how can you suppose to believe that these people now are agreeing by being oppressed by you? This is something crazy. Okay, I mean, Flock, no, um it's not good to be oppressed anyway. It's always good to live freely, and it's always good to be free to think, decide, say, think whatsoever, whatever you want. But even if this is something great to think, I don't think that in the Shingeki no Kyojin world, as much as in this world we are living here, we are free for real. We are not free. We are just pretending to be free, or we are just convincing ourselves that we are free. Why do I think that we are not free, even in this world? Is because there are laws, there are rules, there are impositions from other people on top of us. So, as much as in the Shingeki no Kyojin world, even in this world, people can't be free entirely. In the Shingeki no Kyojin world, okay, there is the paradise with the walls, so the walls now they are falling, and paradise is free. Okay, free geographically speaking, free because anyway, human beings will never be free, because there will always be somebody who wants to dominate on others. There will always be somebody who wants to be superior than others. And until there will be the end of that thing, people will never be free. Because as soon as you have a people who is superior than you automatically are under somebody. And this makes you understand that you're not free. Only people on top of it, they are free to do whatever they want. But you who stay under are always oppressed, are always controlled. Um, so, Flock, wasn't it better to be oppressed by Marley and the rest of the world if you think that it's better to survive instead of living, instead of dying with pride, like that. At this point, it's incoherent, yeah. And yeah, once again, I tell you this, when he's saying, I'm speaking for Aaron, I'm Aaron's voice, or something like that. No, I don't believe so. Not at all. And then he keeps saying, even, I will think about how to cancel the resentments in the inside. I mean, inside paradise. Maybe Eren asked him to do so, for real. I mean, maybe Eren told him, look, Flock, by using him, of course. Flock, now I give you a new mission. You have to restore Paradise for the best. For example, let's put it as an example, okay? Yeah, that was something good to say. But maybe Flock interpreted this for his own personal interest, and his vision to calm everything down was not what maybe Eren asked him to do. And in fact, now Flock wants to impose his presence on others. He wants to impose his authority as a dictator that is a little bit different, right? So I think if Eren asked him to do so, he asked him without him becoming a dictator of a paradise. But he was asking him to do so for the best as a result of all the efforts he's putting in order to destroy the rest of the world and making this decision by sacrificing himself. So yeah, we can interpret these sentences in many ways, but definitely I don't think that Eren is saying something like, look, Flock, now you go to paradise and you impose your authority on others, and you're saying this, you're saying that, and you put the paradise under your control. I don't think so, because this will go against Eren, against what Eren wants to do. That means let them live free in peace without impositions. But if a Flock now wants to impose himself on entire Paradise Island, that's not what Eren wants. um, or even when he's saying, I'm speaking for Eren, did you invent this? Was this invented? Was this really true? But if I know Eren a little bit, I don't think that he was promoting this imposition inside Paradise. Otherwise, he is destroying the world for nothing. And even Eren would be incoherent if he says, look, I'm going to destroy the world for the sake of Paradise. But then, even inside the Paradise, there will be another dictator, and everything, and a new totalitarianism is starting again. Another oppression is starting again. This is going against Eren's principle of what he's doing so far, actually. So that's why I don't believe this. And then we obtain the freedom. Mm, yeah, Flock, you obtained your freedom by imposing your authority on others. What kind of freedom is that? Or is it your freedom only, you and the Jaegerists' freedom only to rule on common people? But that's not freedom anyway. So he's imposing his authority on Paradise by stealing the freedom of others. And by stealing the freedom of these Paradise people who are living in Paradise. So this goes against Eren once again, because Eren has this principle: if you stole my freedom, then I'm going to get it back by stealing yours. So yeah, it could be a principle of Eren, but in the moment in which Eren desires, wishes to save Paradise, this can refer to the rest of the world, not to Paradise, or not to the core of Paradise. Do you understand what I mean? So even in this case, Flock is going against Eren's principle regarding Paradise, not the rest of the world. Now I am analyzing everything from the Paradise point of view. Then, if it was for the rest of the world, of course, Eren is saying to the rest of the world, you stole my freedom and now I'm going to get it back by stealing yours. Referred to the rest of the world. But Flock is referring to the inside of Paradise. And this is something that goes against Eren and what he really wants to do. Um, even if Flock is talking about these volunteers, but what about the common people in Paradise? Is he going to impose his authority on them too, or just on these volunteers? Because if he is imposing this authority on these volunteers only, then it makes sense because those volunteers are not Yumi no Tami, so this could represent what Eren wants to do. Yes, of course. By being also the followers of Zeke, yes. In this case, it's okay. I mean, it's coherent. It's not okay. It's coherent with what Eren wants to do. But if then Flock wants to abuse of his superiority and his authority to spread this imposition also on Paradise common people, because him as the Jaegerist number one who wants to become the king of a Paradise, the new Paradise that is going to grow, in that case, it's not something good. No. In this case, it's going against the Eren's principles. Do you understand what I mean? Um, and then the flock is saying, it will be possible to live the lives we want, as much as we want, without fighting. This, once again, I want to remark this. This is still Flock that is going against Erwin in season 3 part 2, because at that time he couldn't live as much as he wanted because he was a soldier who had to follow orders. He had to fight, while here is saying we can be free without fighting finally. Flock created in his mind, and it's something totally normal, the trauma of what was the suicide attack. And based on that negative experience, he wants to turn everything upside down for his own sake. And in fact, he wants to be free. He doesn't want to fight anymore. All these, and he is also saying it correctly, we don't have to die fighting for the pride. Yes, because this is what happened in season 3 part 2 too. So Flock was there at that time, and you need to remember that for Flock, that moment was one of the worst moments ever for his life. And it's based on everything that he's saying is based on that event that changed himself entirely. But Flock, once again, we from now on it will be possible to live how much we want. Yeah, but do you create another slavery? I mean, is this how you really want to live? By imposing yourself? And then Flock is touching John's weak point, because he's saying, John, don't you remember that you wanted to go inside the military forces because you wanted a peaceful and still life without responsibilities? That's a weak point, because yes, John in season 1 was like that. He preferred to go ahead without getting in touch with the troubles, without joining the Chosahedan, because Chosahedan meant to go outside the walls, meant to risk his life, meant to not be able to go back to his family. I mean, it meant to create a responsibility and to risk his life. And you know that John at the beginning was not a risky person. He preferred to stay away from all the problems that they were coming. So now Flock is touching that weak point, because he knows that actually John wanted something like this. But Flock doesn't understand that John now is different, that John now is changed, and he can't get rid of the promise he made to Marco. And In fact, in this episode, the main theme is the promise. It can be Annie with her father, it can be John with Marco, it can be Levi with Zeke. You know that the promise is Connie promising to his family to protect the people as a soldier. So, as you can see, the promise is the core theme of this episode. And it was simply great because you see that no matter the characters, all the characters can have a promise to fulfill, has a promise to maintain, to keep. Um, but yeah, that's John of the past, and I like the fact that John will not be tricked, in my opinion, by these Flock's words, because everything that happened after the moment in which he decided to join Josahedan is more important than these words. And let me tell you, Flock here is trying to convince John as if he is a demon. And that's why I tell you that this character, Flock, reminds me King Fritz because he wants to promote the terror, he wants to promote the imposition, he wants to promote the slavery, he wants to promote this superiority, this hierarchy. He wants to promote the forest, and he also wants to promote this way to convince others that he is like a sort of the pact with the devil. And Flock is trying to temptate the Flock. Flock is trying to temptate John right now by telling him these sentences. Look, do you remember? Let's go back to what you were before. Trying to convince him in the worst way. And this is a sort of a temptation. This is how the demon is playing his role. And it's like, yeah, as if the demon is on the earth. That demons can be even human beings at this point, yeah. But I liked the way in which Isayama here was showing as a Flock that he's ready to do the impossible to go ahead with his sort of dominion that he's creating on Paradise. And that means that nothing is changed, as I was telling you. This is the main risk that Eren didn't put into consideration. And oh, look, this is the worst thing that can happen, actually. The worst thing can happen is that Eren is going to do all these things, and then we will discover that everything was in vain. That would be awesome for some reason, because it makes you understand that even Eren was tricked by his own power, by his own convictions, by his own thoughts. And of course, it will not be awesome because millions of lives were destroyed for nothing. Uh, and then Flock persists because he keeps saying, come on, now it's over. Now you can go back to be the John you were before. He thinks that John is still so weak. And that's why he's making a mistake, because John, he's changed. As soon as he lost Marco, he decided to take a responsibility. And throughout these episodes, especially the previous one, when he was guiding all of them, he was taking a responsibility. So, my dear Flock, dear not so much, but my dear Flock, I know your intentions, but your intentions cannot be fulfilled anymore because John is a different person now. And he is not afraid anymore to take a responsibility. Even if John, at a certain moment, he feels as if he is indoctrinated. I mean, he was brainwashed because you see these eyes of John. "Oh, is it finished for real?" But in that case, he was thinking, is it finished for real? Because, if you remember, in season 4, part 1, when they were inside the Zeppelin, he was saying, if I throw Gabi from the Zeppelin, will it be finished for real? So when he's saying now to Flock, ah, is it finished now? As if he is thinking, now that the rumbling is starting, is it finished for real? No, because now in front of you, you have a Flock, a person like a Flock, who wants to start something bad once again, and it's not finished. It will never be finished. So I want to remind you Nicolo's words when he's saying to Gabi and Kaya, in order to delete the forest, we have to do something that seems to be quite impossible. But we shouldn't stop trying. Because even if it seems impossible, if you keep going on trying, it makes you feel alive. It makes you feel as if you really matters still. If you stop doing so, it makes you understand that you choose the easiest path. That is the path that Eren is choosing. That means instead of trying to defeat the forest in another way, let's destroy everything. That's the easiest path. And I know that Eren is following this because of the power he has, because of what Ymir wants to do. You need to remember that Eren is just the container. The real intention comes from Ymir. So Ymir is the person who's destroying the world right now, not Eren. Eren is just the body, Ymir is the mind. So what's matter the most? The mind or the body or the container? The mind, right? So Ymir is destroying the world because it's her own will. By giving the power to Eren, she decided. Anyway, it's finished. Now you can go back to the same old John, the arrogant and the bastard John. No, no. John, by changing, he will fulfill his promise to avenge Marco for everything that happened. And I'm pretty sure that he will help Mikasa in the future by respecting her feelings, because John is a great man. I mean, John will never, never impose his feelings on Mikasa. I'm just sure that, okay, first of all, if Mikasa will have a baby boy from Eren, John will take care of him. Second of all, if Mikasa will not have a baby from Eren, he will definitely take care of Mikasa instead of Eren. But he will never impose his feelings on her. He will just take care of her by respecting her and her feelings. And this will make John a great man. So John is taking lots of responsibilities recently. And the biggest responsibility after all this mess will be to take care of Mikasa instead of Eren, to help her for the future. So even if Eren will be jealous somehow, but I think that John will always respect her, so Eren doesn't have to worry about that, because John could have stolen Mikasa from him already many times, and he had lots of chances to do so, but he will never do that. I keep trusting John. And I really like his character in season 4. And throughout the entire season 4, he developed in such an amazing way. But then, in fact, then, John is saying to Flock, what are you saying? Yeah, because he knows that now he is different. And I really like that he had that sort of reaction. But he was also looking at Onyankopon in a sort of way that makes you understand that John doesn't agree with the flock, and he just prefers to stay silent because maybe later John is going to release Onyankopon and all the others. Maybe they have a sort of a plan. Just by looking at their eyes meeting, I think that John is already thinking of a way to rescue them. Yeah. And no matter what Yelena made that was simply wrong, you see that Yelena was just a slave of Zeke, but she was a victim of this cruel world, in which you think that when you are saved by somebody, you are devoted to this somebody through the rest of your life, no matter if he's doing good things or bad things. This is part of the cruel world. Actually, when we are rescued by somebody, we should thank those person who is saving us, but we shouldn't accept everything that this person is doing, especially if he's doing something bad. So Yelena made that mistake by being a slave of Zeke. She was taking for granted everything that he was saying, and he was enslaving her as much as Zeke was enslaving Ymir when he was saying, "You have to follow my orders because I am the member of the royal family." Even Zeke liked to enslave others. He did it with these volunteers, and he did it even to Ymir when there was the chance to let her free from the slavery. So, but anyway, I hope that John can find a plan, yeah, to save Onyankopon, because Onyankopon actually didn't follow Zeke's plan, didn't follow Yelena's plan. So by looking at him and by knowing the pain that he's feeling, because Onyankopon he is afraid of what can happen to his family too. I hope, yeah, I think John can have a plan B, or he's still thinking about how to do so. Let's see what's going on. Oh, then we are reaching the Connie and Falco scene. Oh, that was a pretty heavy because Connie is lying to Falco for his personal interest, of course. And Falco at the same time doesn't remember anything. I mean, he remembers just Gabi, he remembers Colt, he remembers all of the dearest people to him, of course. As much as all the other Titans had when they could transform into intelligent Titan the first time. They could remember maybe the people they love, but they don't remember all the rest of the events happening. So Connie is saying, "I am a soldier." And this is something that I usually do. That means to save people in danger. While he's talking to Falco, he's saying something like this. But he's lying in that moment. But actually, he is also remembering his mother's words. And his mother's words were precise. I mean, his mother's words were, look, become a soldier that can protect all of us. Um, and of course, if we read this sentence from Connie's point of view, he maybe thought, "Oh, I'm becoming a soldier because I want to protect my family." But I think that when Connie joined the Chosahedan by becoming a soldier, actually he became a soldier to protect the Paradise in general. So I think that even Connie, by lying at Falco in this moment, everything is so heavy for him too, because he has this responsibility of what he's doing, but at the same time his mother and his memory of his mother is coming back into his mind by maybe guiding him or telling him what was supposed to be good to do. uh, I hope Con is not transforming Falco. Not because okay, if I put myself in Connie's position, I can understand him because of what I told you in the previous episode. I think that every time we find in a dangerous moment, we always wanted to save our dearest people first. But I hope that Connie will not do that, because I don't think that his mother would have been proud to eat a kid. I mean, I think that his mother would have not accepted. Let's pretend that he is giving a Falco to his mom. His mom is going to become an intelligent Titan, and she can come back to the human being form, right? If Connie is going to tell His mom, look, mom, how I revive you? I was just letting you eat, kid. I don't think his mama would be proud of all this. I think that his mama would have preferred to stay in that condition instead, because I think that his mom, by being an older generation, would have preferred to let the new generations going ahead instead of torturing them, instead of killing them. Do you understand what I mean? So I think that, yeah, Connie is still thinking, and I think that if Armin can reach him and he can talk to him and he can let him understand this, that the new generations are really essential, are really important to change the world, maybe Connie will refrain from doing what he wants to do. And I think these mother's words were so essential in this moment, because he became a soldier not just for his personal interest, but he swore his life to the community. So by doing what he will do, he will go against this, and this is something crazy. This is something not good to do at this point. But I like this intense moment in which Falco is still doubting, or is starting doubting about who Connie is, because he remembers him. But then Connie said that it's the first time that he's meeting him. So I like that Falco is starting understanding little by little that there's something wrong, why they are all alone going to north side instead of the south side. Where is this hospital? I mean, all these doubtful thoughts that are starting in the mind of Falco, and they are pretty interesting because, yeah, Falco is not stupid. I think that the more we will go on with the next episode, the more he will realize. And maybe he can remember already some things. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Last but not least, the last scene in which we see uh, Peak and Magath, that they are talking and they are saying that there is nothing else to do right now because they are in the worst condition and in worst situation. And if you see Peak is looking in front of her while Magath is saying that there is nothing else to do, and I'm pretty sure that even Peak is thinking. Even Peak is thinking about her dad, because you know that Peak's father's health condition is poor, and she was becoming a candidate titan because she wanted to rescue him, she wanted to protect him, and that's why when you see that Magath is saying, "Oh no, I don't think there's anything else to do right now." Actually, you see Peak's face that is quite sad, because she's realizing that her dad is going to die too, and all her efforts were going ahead for nothing, because now the rumbling is going to defeat all her hopes, all her beliefs, etc., etc. So, but Magath keeps saying, "Yeah, no, there is nothing else to do right now." But at the same time, it's better if we don't stop fighting. We can't stop fighting. And this is more or less what Niccolo was saying regarding the forest. Even if it's something impossible to defeat it entirely, we shouldn't stop trying to defeat it, to defeat this concept of the forest. So even Magath is doing the same thing. No matter how hard things are, you shouldn't stop trying, because never say never. So I really like even Megath and how this character evolved here, because even if Pika seems to be hopeless at the end of the day, she is not, because she is assured by Megath that until they keep going on fighting, tatakae, then this doesn't regard Eren only anymore, but it regards everybody. So this tatakae is the leitmotif of the entire story, because all of them, they are fighting for something, and if they stop trying to fight, they lose. If they keep going on fighting, they might win. So this is the essential part of this story. The the coral of this story. Um, and then Hanji is coming, and wow, look, what the F? Because now, I mean, Hanji that is meeting Peak, first of all, two strategical women that are going to cooperate because at this point they have the same thing in common. They all wanted to destroy Zeke. Uh, so they have something in common, and this is something crazy. But the good thing is that two strategical women like Peak and Hanji together, they can create something explosive, don't you think? I always like the Hanji's strategy and Hanji's way to analyze things. But now that we have even Peak, wow, this combo, this combination that is happening now, it's unexpected. I've never expected something like this happening. But yeah, they wanted to kill old Zeke. I mean, Levi wants to kill Zeke, and it's the promise that he has to fulfill. Hanji is helping Levi by doing so. And of course, she also goes against Zeke because Zeke turned into Titans all of the people in Paradise. And of course, she can't say, "Good job, Zeke." But on the other side, Pika and Magath, they are searching for Zeke because Zeke is a traitor. Um, and that's why they have this huge thing in common. But when Hanji is saying, "No, look, I'm not going to harm you because I don't have a weapon right now." Ah, over there. I really like Hanji, the way in which she's talking. This attitude that she had is so great. But then she's saying, "Oh, no, that's a harmless man who still refused to die." Wow. I mean, of course, we still have to get in touch with Levi's conditions, and we needed to understand if he will be able to fight once again or not, if we will see him fighting or not. Of course, he's weaker than before because that Raiso's, these Thunder Spears feedback was something destroying him, and we saw that already. But we see. I still believe that Levi will go ahead with his promise. I still believe that Levi is going to kill Zeke because that's what he promised to Erwin. And as you all know, the promises here matter more than death, matter more than anything. And when you make a promise, you always prove yourself that nothing is impossible until you fulfill it. So definitely, I think that Levi will go ahead with his promise. But the fact that he also refuses to die, it's of course a characteristic that Ackerman has because they are so strong and they always try to find a way to survive no matter what. So I think that the Ackerman power is also this, that no matter how much you're trying to defeat them, they are always trying to find a way to restore them. I mean, to regain their energy. So yeah, definitely. I'm so happy that Levi is back. I was completely sure that he was still alive because it was impossible for him to disappear. I mean, like a character like Levi to disappear like that? No, it's impossible. So it was pretty obvious to me that he was alive, but I still can't wait to see his physical conditions. I still can't wait to see when he will wake up, what he has to say, what happened, and yeah, I'm so happy for the moment. Let's see what's going on, and let's see how Levi, by waking up, will interact with the Beacon Magath. That would be so interesting because, as I told you, I've never expected something like this happening. Sincerely, let's see. Let's see. This episode was quite intense too. I really liked it, and people, I keep reminding you this. People who are telling you that this episode is a transitional episode, no, it's not. It's not true. Shingeki no Kyojin is not a story in which you can find a plot twist in each episode. If you want a story like this, you don't like Shingeki no Kyojin. These episodes are not transitional. These episodes matter, and they are so essential and so important to understand the rest of the story. So please don't judge this episode as a meaningless or as if it doesn't count anything, because no, it counts a lot, it matters a lot, and you should see this story deep and deep and deep. Because if you always think that this story needs battles, needs plot twists, etc., etc., no, that's not true. Shingeki no Kyojin doesn't need a plot twist in each episode. Shingeki no Kyojin is good enough like this because it has lots of things to narrate, lots of things to say, and it's look, this episode was simply great as much as the previous one, so I don't put them on a different level, they are just different, that's it. Okay guys, thank you so much for the support. I finished all the review, all the thoughts, all the analysis of this episode. Thank you for being here with me today too. See you next Wednesday with episode 24, the analysis of episode 24, and see you next Sunday with episode 24 or 84 of season 4 part 2 of Shingeki no Kyojin. Thank you so much for the support. Bye guys, see you in the next video, see you in the next live streaming. Thank you so much for the support. Hope to see you again. Bye. See you. Bye bye. See you.